This is the third and final video in a series about the sequel trilogy's varied and expansive trove of alien designs. I suggest you watch the previous two episodes first, if you haven't already. The Rise of Skywalker might be the most robust of the sequel trilogy in terms of designs. We go all over the place with these alien builds, and why not get a little weird with it? After all, it is the final film in the Skywalker saga. So let's go over some of my favorites, and learn a little bit about them along the way, shall we? Our first species to appear are the Albrekh of Winsit. One of many Sith cults that sprang up after their demise, these guys specifically spent their time on Mustafar around Vader's castle as they revered and worshipped him. They also worshipped the ancient Lady Korvax, a woman from long before the Skywalker saga, who was responsible for the devastated state the planet Mustafar is in. Her attempt at using an ancient Mustafarian artifact to resurrect her lover, notice that big resurrection theme, went south, and caused the once luscious landscape to become barren and fiery. To honor her, the Albrekh planted iron trees during a period of renewal for the planet's ecosystem. Kylo Ren then showed up, killed them all mercilessly, and took their wayfinder. Ah well. Claude. He is a Trototome mechanic who worked for the Resistance and flies alongside Poe and Finn on their mission to the Cinta Glacier colony. Claude can basically do anything, all without arms, or capacity to speak Basic. After his first mission on the Falcon, Claude decided all that excitement may be a bit too much, and decides to stay on Agent Kloss, which gave the First Order a fighting chance. Because if Claude was in the fight full-time, they'd be gone faster than you can say,
"Somehow Palpatine returned."
Next up, we have the head of Cinta Glacier colony mining operations, Bullio. Okay, he's not the head of operations, but I couldn't resist, though he is an overseer. He is an Ovisian, and while we don't know their home planet at the moment, we do know they've colonized other planets, including Crystar, which appears in the Star Wars Adventures Clone Wars series. Bullio was a spy for the Resistance, and gave them crucial information before being discovered and displayed on the Steadfast's conference room's table. In my Force Awakens Aliens video, I stated that this alien that appears in The Mandalorian was a female Ovisian, though I do not believe that is the case anymore. Instead, she seems to be the same species as this patron at the Canto Bight Casino, so I thought I'd clear the air there. One more fun fact about Bullio: he's voiced by none other than the man Mark Hamill himself. This is Albrekh. Albrekh is a Sith alchemist and metalsmith on the Night Buzzard. You can thank him for the badass Kintsugi-inspired design on Kylo's helmet in The Rise of Skywalker. I guess he just has a flair for symbolism. Anyway, he's a Simiong, basically monkey. These are the Akiaki, celebrating the Festival of the Ancestors on Pisana in the middle of its harsh desert landscape. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that the Festival of the Ancestors occurs every 42 years, the same amount of time between the release of A New Hope and The Rise of Skywalker. Truly just an instance of planets aligning. The Akiaki have forgone star travel, though this group is not the space equivalent of the Amish, as they still use speeders and other advanced technology to help them survive in the desert. And before I move on, let me leave you with this little tyke, a baby Akiaki, whose face tentacles haven't grown in quite yet. This beauty is Klaud. She drives a D-25 treadable, basically a set of giant treads, across the desert, basically a taxi service. She happens to pick up Lando, Rey and company, who probably left a large tip before heading to Ochi's ship. She's been working many a festival, which, may I remind you, happen every 42 years. She's been around so long, she likes to joke that she's one of the ancestors being honored by the festival. This working gal has no species name yet, but apparently they are serpent-like, and she drives by coiling around the steering column in the cockpit. In the rest of the vehicle is a store of wares for you to haggle on if you're so inclined to do so. Very business-savvy, this Kalon. And now we come to Ochi of Bestoon. This is certainly an interesting one. Ochi is a Sith assassin who has apparently been in the service of Sidious for years before the Rise of Skywalker takes place. He was a faithful Sith assassin, given armor and tasks to complete for his Emperor, one of which he failed miserably, finding Palpatine's granddaughter. He managed to capture Palpatine's Strandcast son and his wife, murdering them both with a ritualistic dagger that is found in his bones in the sandpit where he lays, but died before he could find Rey on Jakku, ending up in the clutches of a Vexus, who made quick work of him. Though in his heyday he was quite the formidable opponent. In the Darth Vader comic series, 2020, He is sent by Palpatine, in some very snazzy armor, may I add, to test Vader's conviction after Vader makes some questionable un-Sith decisions following The Empire Strikes Back. Vader finally overcomes Ochi, though, who tells Vader about the secret Sith world of Exegol. There, Vader drags him to Palpatine's lab where they witness the true might of the Emperor's plan. Ochi is blinded by the light gleaming off of a tortured kyber crystal, which will one day power the lasers of the Zeiston-class Star Destroyers we see on Exegol. This wrinkled apricot face had to wear special eyepieces from then on, and funny enough, we know so much about him, except his species. Come on, guys, give these characters some species names. For some reason, the next guy is one of my favorites. This is a Basudian, specifically a Munchie-Tidian, who we spot in Kijimi trying to avoid the First Order's tyrannical grip. And that's about it. We catch a glimpse of him, he makes a funny noise, and we try to forget that later he probably blew up with the planet. That is the charm of Star Wars. These random background characters we connect to, and sometimes have to say goodbye to off-screen. Also, for some reason his race reminds me of Vouvrians, but I think that's because of the multiple eyes. This is a personal bias I think I have to work on. And now, we moved on to the Spice Runner's Den, another great showcase of alien life in the sequels, and a cameo from John Williams. But I digress. This smiley boy is Carib-Dis, a bounty hunter of currently unknown species. Seriously, guys, come up with some names. Just throw a dart at a board with some letters. Anything. Anyway, even if we don't know the species name, we know some info about how this guy lives. Apparently, his grimace isn't just for intimidation. All of his sensory organs exist in his uvula, that dangly thing in the back of your throat, which means he gets a better outlook on life when he smiles. Truly a lesson for us all. The funny hat he's wearing is apparently a sensor dome, which also allows him to keep better tabs on his surroundings. His name is derived from Charybdis, a legendary sea monster maw that Odysseus must deal with in the Odyssey. This guy has no name or species yet, but I had to focus on him for a second because I really love his spiked head look and glowing hyper turtleneck. And yes, I just made that term up. Lucasfilm, call me. I can write this stuff too. But sitting next to old spiky head turtleneck is Hrothgar Deng, definitely one of the most interesting background characters in the entire sequence. For one thing, I don't even know if he's actually an alien. You see, rumor has it, he may have once been a human bounty hunter who sought to replace his failing fleshy body prison with black market cybernetics to keep him living forever. According to my source, he's very old and very experienced, and from Corellia. He also happens to be wearing the armor of Dengar, an old human bounty hunter from Corellia who... Wait. Hrothgar Deng? Dengar? Anyway, moving on. Oh boy, it's time to talk about the Frickster. That's right, fan favorite Babu Frik. Babu Frik is an Inzellan, and also C-3PO's oldest friend. Inzellans have been featured in other Star Wars media as well, making an appearance in the High Republic novel Light of the Jedi, which makes me so happy that there are other Babus running around out there in the galaxy. Inzellans are very small and very long-lived. Babu Frik is 80 years old by the time of the Rise of Skywalker. They also have incredible eyesight that lets them see microscopic detail, and they're just a joy to be around. If you can, get yourself an Inzellan friend. You won't regret it. Moving to another species that also appears in the High Republic, we have the Kasurian race, specifically veiled sorority pirate Wilsa Teshlo. Second in line to the throne on her home planet, she fled rather than live the royal life. She answered the call when Lando came around and was part of the citizens' fleet of 14,000 ships that showed up to fight the Final Order at the Battle of Exegol. She can be found celebrating in the background on Asian cloths after the victory. But she isn't the only Kasurian representation around. Jedi Master Estala Maru served as the head of operations on Starlight Beacon during the time of the High Republic. Kasurians are one of two species in the galaxy that we know of that have montrals, the other being Togruta. Montrals are the horn-like structures on the top of their heads that help increase senses. Now, somebody I would like to hop in real quick just to address is Aftab. Now, Aftab is definitely a species one can easily recognize in Star Wars, Amon Calamari, which is definitely not new to the sequel trilogy. But aside from being one of the few returning species in the sequel trilogy from other eras of Star Wars, Aftab, who only makes a few brief appearances, is Admiral Akbar's son, taking up the fight after his father's tragic death on the Radis. This is a detail that's often overlooked, and I figured I wanted to point it out. He has more lines and more to do in the comic miniseries Star Wars Allegiance. And finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't get to talk about the Mythrol. Yes, that's right, the Mythrol make an appearance in The Rise of Skywalker. June Gobint was a resistance fueler who really looks like he enjoys his job. If you're wondering why he looks so much different than the Mythrol we see in The Mandalorian, known as the Mythrol, it's because the Mythrol is only a fledgling and will probably grow to look more like poor June Gobint here. Now for the ones that didn't quite make the cut, and there's really only one to discuss here. My beautiful baby head spider boy, the Eye of Webbish Bog. The Eye of Webbish Bog was an unknown spider-like species of unknown origin atop another unknown species of some kind of giant goblin baby that resided in, well, the Webbish Bog on Mustafar. In The Rise of Skywalker, he would have appeared in the beginning, forcing Kylo to solve a riddle to obtain the Wayfinder he seeks. This scene was cut because I can never get what I want. Though it was later reinstated in the Rise of Skywalker novelization, where it is delightfully mystical and wholly weird, I will never not be angry that it was cut from the film. Interestingly enough, it also appears in the Darth Vader 2020 comic series, where it gives Vader the Wayfinder to Exegol after he goes through a similar trial. And those were just some of the kooky, interesting, and unique alien designs one can find in the sequels, because I hadn't seen others on YouTube really showcasing all the hard work in costuming, makeup, and production design, plus all of the lore, world building, and integration of the sequels into larger Star Wars canon. And of course, to cap us off, here's a return of my favorite segment I like to call, Check This Guy Out. Check this guy out. Whoa, look at this guy. This guy, whoa, what's up with him? Check this guy out. Look at that guy. Whoa.